This is a Willets Point Shea Stadium bound 7 express train. The next and last stop is Willets Point Shea Stadium.
I'm glad you brought up, the analytics, because that has been just the talk of baseball for the last couple of years. How Buck Showalter reacted with using analytics, and now with Carlos Mendoza being the Mets manager. And it kind of similar, right? You got Aaron Boone as Yankees manager, Carlos Mendoza Mets manager. The Yankees bring in Brad Ausmus as the bench coach, correct? And the Mets bring in John Gibbons, who was that baseball fiery guy, was the manager in Toronto for so long. So I see the similarities between both teams and the way that they're using the coaching staff, because, I don't know how he was with the Yankees, and maybe you can, talk a little bit about, what you saw from Carlos Mendoza being that bench coach to Aaron Boone. But it's going to be a lot different. And this fresh perspective that we're getting from a younger, I guess, players manager. I don't know. Because I did think Buck was sort of a players manager, and he kind of got screwed with analytics.
Yeah.
And he talked about that on Foul Territory not too long ago. So what's when it comes to Carlos Mendoza, do you got any thoughts on him? I know he was just on the bench and you don't get to see him that much, but did he have any effect on the Yankees?
Well, when it comes to Mendy, Aaron Boone has been thrown out. He's been the manager that's been tossed the most in Major League Baseball since becoming a manager. So we've seen a lot from Carlos Mendoza having to take over for Aaron Boone after being tossed. But no, I've been a big fan of Mendoza. Honestly, I wanted him to take over the job and wanted the Yankees to get rid of Aaron Boone for the past year. I think you guys have a solid pickup in Mendy. Having a former manager in John Gibbons, who was very fiery in Toronto for some years going up against the Yankees, I think is a very key component of it. You don't want to be hamstrung with the analytics. But when it comes to analytics, I always say analytics is just extra data, right? It's just, what do you do with that data? You can have all the data they could be feeding you all the data in the world, right? But if you don't have the proper people in place to interpretate that data and then put that data into practice on the field, you're just shooting yourself in the foot. You're just getting all of this stuff and you're just drowning in all the information. So having a guy like John Gibbons, having a guy like Carlos Mendoza, who had to deal with the analytic department with the Yankees and Aaron Boone, I think will be easier than having an old school guy like Buck having to now have to adapt to the new age of things with analytics. So Mendy and Gibbons, I think, is the perfect pairing to try to incorporate analytics if you're going to go with that route now in 2024.
My whole thing with hiring managers was like, I don't care who you bring in here, as long as you don't pull a Kevin Cash in the World Series and pull out your top starter because of analytics. Like, no, I mean, there has to be some kind of distinction from, using these analytics and looking at the iPad, which we see a lot of the teams do now these days. And, the eye test, like there has like the eye test has to still be a part of what's going on in baseball.
Yeah. But also, who was that starting pitcher he took out? That was
Blake
taken out. Blake Snell. Blake Snell is a guy that he cannot go more than 6 innings. So when you look at it, he's kind of right, because it's a win-lose situation. And if he would have kept Blake Snell out there, he would have given up home runs. The game would have been blown out. They would have said, you should have took Blake Snell out, knowing he can't give you more than 6 innings because of the analytics. So it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't scenario. But when it blows up in your face, especially on the biggest stage, the World Series, it's going to stick out like a sore thumb. If it happens in April, if it happens in June, no one talks about it. But happening in the World Series, everyone's going to talk about it.
And you can times that by 100 in New York.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's going to be the fans are going to be coming for it. Just like the way you're coming with the guillotine for Brian Cashman, the fans are going to be all over that.